Leaders versus destroyers. Since the development of the movie industry, Mongols, the ones that shaped Eurasian history, have been depicted quite differently. They are conquerors, they are bloodthirsty enemies, and they are also humans. Depiction of them varies by country since they were depicted in Chinese, Middle Eastern, Central Asian, South Asian, European, and even American productions. I'd like to argue that the reason why they differ between each other is because Mongol film portrayal of Mongol conquest are shaped less by historical accuracy and more by national identity and cultural memory, leading each region to reinterpret the Mongols in a way that reflect its own historical trauma or political narrative. There are roughly 4 narrative choices: victim-centric, sympathetic, neutral, and Orientalist, and which influence whether Mongols are depicted as civilization leaders or apocalyptic invaders. But the nuance is a lot harder. There are, in victim-centered and Orientalist narrative, Mongols are often othered and dehumanized, portrayed as barbaric and even mythologized as destructive and almost apocalyptic force. But if they wanted to humanize and show Mongolians differently or even neutrally, they would have different kind of depictions. In contrast, other film adopt a more revisionist and biographical approach, humanizing figures such as Genghis Khan and reframing them as political leaders or nation builders. Another thing to discuss is what makes it interesting is the way how they might differently portray historical events, how they use Secret History of Mongols or Juveni's tracts, and which historical events they might omit either for fictional reasons or for narrative constructing nationalistic reason. First is victim narrative. There is a connecting case of depiction of victim-centric in Kazakhstani production about the fall of Otrar and Syrian production about Hulegu's life. A lot of focus and emphasis is placed on the tragedy of conquest. They openly portray the genocide, the fall of cities, the recurring tragedy of violence and loss, while majority of Mongol characters will be represented as cruel, as inhumanely brutal. There are obviously some goodly represented ones, like Mongolian spy who infiltrated the Otrar and had a change of heart after living in the city. In both cases, the enemy is the ruling Khans. Genghis Khan and Hulegu Khan are both narratively wanted to rule the world and overthrow the Allah. They are depicted as enemy of Islam, as apocalyptic event. Both sources also use a history written by Juveni, where Fall of Otrar is the most historically accurate one, showing the average life of people. For example, the depiction of Yam system, where passport, like paisa, was served as a way of traveling freely in the vast land, shows the interesting depiction of what it was like in among Mongols. Hulegu Khan also relies on Juveni's record, but right at the last moment it kills Hulegu Khan in Battle of Ain Jalut, which is not historically accurate. Second narrative would be about imperial and legitimizing nation-building one. We have Chinese TV show of 2004, which depicts Genghis Khan and his birth, development, and death. It most closely follows the secret history of Mongols, and it chooses to frame Genghis Khan as a nation builder. Fun fact, the actor portraying Genghis Khan is one of his direct descendants. Here, not only he, but also his family are morally good people. For example, his father Yasuge did not kidnap Olun, but actually saved her from forced marriage. How romantic. While it does use history of Mongols most closely, it also sometimes adds such tweaks. When it depicts Fall of Otrar, it focuses on battle scenes and depicts Kain Khan as a villain who let his nation be destroyed, and Genghis Khan as morally superior one. It aims to humanize Genghis Khan, and there can be some narrative choices considering that Genghis Khan is a founder of Yuan dynasty. Here we can see how it impacts the need for a good moral leader impacts the narrative choices in visual media. Another one, in this regard, there needs to be comparison with the movie depicting Genghis Khan's life, The Mongol. It's an international production of multiple countries such as Russia, China, Japan, Kazakhstan, and Mongolia. As a result, it aims to temper down the existing nationalistic ideas and narrative in their respective countries, and tries to portray Genghis Khan's life in an artistic medium. There is similar narrative with Chinese drama. It uses Genghis Khan's earliest struggles, but it does not aim to process it through nation-building process. Rather, the focus is on portraying his life as a coming-of-age story, but for conqueror in vast lands. It shows power struggle, competition with Jamukha, and his personal life. It humanizes Genghis Khan without trying to make him a morally superior one. At last, we have those guys. Yeah, we're talking about Hollywood production. This is supposed to be birthday, and this is supposed to show how Ong Khan lives. The Genghis Khan 90 of written in 1950s depicts steppe people becoming Chinese from Qing Empire. It's quite interesting. Both of these productions made during 50s and 60s was the last time Hollywood ever tried to portray Mongol in big screen. History accuracy is out and beautiful Orientalism is in. We have to consider the cultural differences in Hollywood during that time and how does it treat foreign history. Yes, at first glance, it looks like Mongols are treated like barbarians, yet polluting countries and beautiful women, they inflicting violence and much more. At the same time, there needs to be a need for clarity. During the 60s, the macho man archetype was the dominant one, followed by quite misogynistic undertones. Right now, depicting Genghis Khan as